The slap echoed through that fancy restaurant like thunder. My stepmother stood over me, her diamond rings still glinting, while I clutched my pregnant belly. She called me trash, said I'd never be nothing. But she didn't know who was about to walk through that door. If you've ever been underestimated, treated like you're less than, or had someone try to break your spirit, this story is for you. Stay with me till the very end, because what happens next will remind you that your worth was never theirs to define. Hit that subscribe button, because you'll want to hear how this unfolds. I was 20 years old, 6 months pregnant, and sitting in a restaurant I couldn't afford, waiting for a woman who hated me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept smoothing down my clearance rack dress, the only decent thing I owned that still fit, over my growing belly. The waiter had already passed by 3 times, giving me those looks. You know, the ones, like I was bringing down the property value just by breathing their air. But I was desperate. That's the only reason I'd called her. That's the only reason I'd begged my stepmother, of all people, to meet me. Let me back up, because you need to understand how I got here. My mama died when I was 8 years old. Cancer took her fast, and my daddy, he just crumbled. For 7 years, it was just us two, struggling but managing. Then, when I was 15, he met Lorraine. She swept in like a hurricane in designer heels, all polished and proper, working her way up in some big real estate development company. She saw my daddy, saw a lonely man with a little money saved up, and decided he'd do. They got married 6 months later, and that's when my real life ended. Suddenly, I wasn't his daughter anymore. I was the inconvenient reminder of his past. Lorraine made sure of that. She'd smile at him and ice me out in the same breath, made me feel like a roach in my own house. I became the help, cleaning, cooking, staying invisible. My daddy never said a word. He'd just look away whenever she talked down to me, like he was scared she'd leave him too. The day I turned 18, she told me I had 1 month to get out, said I was grown now, and grown folks handle their own business. My daddy signed the papers to cut me off from any college fund my mama had left. Just like that, I was on my own with $200 and a garbage bag full of clothes. I worked. Lord, did I work. I got a job waiting tables at a diner, another stocking shelves overnight at a grocery store. I enrolled in community college, taking classes when I could stay awake. I got myself a tiny studio apartment where the heat barely worked, and I told myself I was doing fine. I was surviving. That's what we do, right? We survive. Then I met Brandon. It was random, one of those moments that feels like fate. I'd picked up a 3rd job doing catering for events, and he was at this charity dinner, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. We started talking during my break, and he was different. Kind, real. He didn't talk down to me when he found out I was a waitress working my way through school. He listened when I talked, like my words actually mattered. We spent 3 months together, secret months, because he traveled a lot for business, and I was working crazy hours. It was intense and beautiful, and felt like finally, something good was happening in my life. Then one day he just stopped calling, stopped texting, disappeared like smoke. I tried to reach him for weeks, but his number went dead. I figured it out eventually. I was a fool. Another poor girl thinking a man with money actually cared about her. Then I found out I was pregnant. I was 3 weeks late when I took that test in the gas station bathroom on my break. 2 pink lines that changed everything. I broke down right there on that dirty floor. Because I knew I was about to do this alone. That was 6 months ago. I've been holding on, barely, working myself sick, saving every penny, trying to figure out how I'm going to bring a baby into this world with nothing. And in my weakest moment, in my most desperate hour, I called the one person I thought might help. Not because she loved me, she never did, but because I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd have some mercy. I was wrong. Lorraine walked into that restaurant like she owned it, her heels clicking against the marble floor, designer bags swinging from her arm. She was everything I wasn't. Polished, powerful, put together. She sat down across from me without even a hello, her face twisted up like I smelled bad. "Well," she said, looking me up and down. You look about as pathetic as I expected. I swallowed my pride. I had to. Thank you for coming. I know we're not close, but close. She laughed, sharp and mean. Girl, we're not anything. You're nothing to me. Never were. The only reason I'm here is because your father begged me to check on you, and I needed to get him off my back. That hurt, but I pushed through. I'm pregnant. I'm trying to work, but I'm getting sick, and I might lose my jobs, and I just need some help. Just a little bit, maybe a loan, until, a loan? Her voice got loud enough that people started looking. You think I'm going to give you money? For what? So you can raise some bastard baby you trapped some man with. It wasn't like that, I said quietly, feeling tears start to burn. I didn't trap anyone. He left before I could even tell him. Of course he did. She leaned forward, venom dripping from every word. Because that's what men do when girls like you try to climb above your station. You're just like your mother, weak, stupid, and destined to struggle. And now you're bringing another mistake into this world. I felt something crack inside my chest. Don't talk about my mama. Your mama was a fool, and so are you. You really thought calling me would change anything? You think I care if you end up on the street? That baby you're carrying is going to grow up just as worthless as you are. I just need help, I whispered, tears running down my face now. The whole restaurant was watching. I could feel their eyes, their judgment, and I wanted to disappear. Please, I'm not asking for much, just, who's the father? She cut me off. Let me guess, you don't even know. I know, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. His name is Brandon Winters. The color drained from her face. Then it came back red, furious red. She knew that name. Everyone in business knew that name. Brandon Winters, owner of Winters Pharmaceutical Manufacturing, one of the biggest operations in the state. The man had more money than some small countries, and his company supplied half the region with medications. You're lying, she hissed. You're a lying little gold digger, trying to ruin a good man's reputation. I'm not lying. We were together. I didn't know who he was at first, and when I found out, it didn't matter to me. I loved him for him. Loved him. Lorraine stood up so fast, her chair scraped loud against the floor. You don't love people like Brandon Winters. You trap them. You scheme your way into their beds, and then try to trap them with babies. Well, I won't let you destroy him with your lies. It's not a lie. I was standing now too, my whole body shaking. I'm telling the truth. That's when she hit me. Her hand came across my face, so hard, I stumbled backward into the table, knocking over water glasses. The sound seemed to freeze the entire restaurant. My cheek was on fire, and I could taste blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my mouth. I pressed my hands to my belly instinctively, protecting my baby, while Lorraine stood over me breathing hard. You're trash, she spat. You'll always be trash. And when that baby comes, it'll be trash too. Don't you ever speak Brandon Winters' name again, you lying little. Get away from her. The voice cut through the restaurant like a blade, deep, controlled, but carrying enough rage to make everyone freeze. I looked up from where I was half collapsed against the table, and my heart stopped. Brandon Winters stood just inside the entrance, still in his business suit, his eyes locked on Lorraine with a fury I'd never seen before. He looked older than I remembered, more tired, but still him. Still the man I'd fallen in love with, the man who'd disappeared from my life without a word. Lorraine turned, and I watched her confident mask shatter. She recognized him. Of course she did. Mr. Winters, she stammered, trying to compose herself. I didn't know you. This isn't what it looks like. Brandon didn't even acknowledge her. He walked straight to me, his expression shifting from anger to concern, as he took in my tear-stained face, my swollen belly, the red mark already forming on my cheek. Are you okay? His hands were gentle on my shoulders, helping me straighten up. Is the baby okay? I couldn't speak. I just stared at him, trying to understand if this was real, or if I'd hit my head when I fell. His hands moved to my face, tilting it to examine where Lorraine had hit me, and his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jump. "I've been looking for you," he said quietly, "just for me. For 6 months, I've been looking everywhere. My phone was stolen that last night. We were together. Everything was gone. Your number, your address, everything. I hired people to find you, but you'd moved, and you weren't on social media, and—" He stopped, his eyes dropping to my belly. "You're pregnant." "Yes," I whispered. "How far along?" "6 months." I watched him do the math, watched understanding, and then something like joy and pain mixed together cross his face. "It's mine." "Yes." "And you didn't know how to reach me. You disappeared. I thought you ghosted me. I thought I was just another—" "No." His voice was firm. "Never. I lost my phone. And when I got a new one, I realized I'd never gotten your last name. I'd just called you beautiful in my contacts. I went back to every place we'd been together, but you weren't at any of your jobs anymore. I didn't know how else to find you." Lorraine tried to interrupt. "Mr. Winters, if I had known she was telling the truth about knowing you, I never would have." Brandon turned to her slowly, and the temperature in the restaurant seemed to drop. "You hit her. It was a misunderstanding. She was making claims about you, and I was trying to protect—" "You hit a pregnant woman," he said, each word precise and cold. "You hit my pregnant woman. And from what I heard when I walked in, you've been abusing her for a lot longer than just today." Lorraine's face went pale. "Your company has contracts with our real estate development firm. Surely we can—" "Those contracts—" Brandon pulled out his phone, never taking his eyes off her. "Consider them terminated, every single one. I'll have my lawyers send the paperwork tomorrow." "You can't do that. Those contracts are worth millions. Our company depends on—" "You should have thought about that before you put your hands on her." He turned to the restaurant manager, who'd been hovering nearby. "Did anyone call the police?" "We can, sir, if the young lady wants to press charges." Everyone looked at me. Lorraine was staring at me with pure terror in her eyes, and I realized I had power now, real power. For the first time in my entire life, someone who'd hurt me was actually going to face consequences. But you know what? I was tired. So tired of fighting, of hurting, of carrying all this anger. "No," I said quietly. "I don't want to press charges. I just want to leave. I just want her out of my life forever." Brandon studied my face, then nodded. "Okay. But if you ever come near her again," he said to Lorraine, "if you ever speak to her or about her, if I even hear you've mentioned her name, I'll make sure you never work in this state again. Do you understand?" Lorraine nodded, tears running down her own face now. Funny how the tables turn. Brandon took my arm gently. "Let's get you out of here." He led me outside into the cool evening air, and I finally broke down. 6 months of holding everything together just collapsed. I sobbed against his chest while he held me, one hand protectively on my back, the other hovering near my belly, like he was afraid to touch it without permission. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm so sorry you went through this alone. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry that woman ever hurt you." When I could finally breathe again, I pulled back and looked up at him. "Why were you even at that restaurant?" "Business dinner, some investors I'm meeting with." He laughed, but it sounded broken. "I almost canceled. I was tired, didn't want to deal with it. But something told me to go. Maybe," he shook his head. "I don't know. Maybe it was meant to happen this way." "I don't believe in meant to be," I said. "Not anymore." "Fair enough." He was quiet for a moment. "Can we talk? Really talk? There's a coffee shop down the street. Somewhere quiet." I should have said no. I should have protected myself, built my walls back up, but I was tired of walls too. So I said yes. We talked for 3 hours. He told me about his phone being stolen at the airport, how he'd tried everything to find me, how he'd thought maybe I'd changed my mind about him, decided he wasn't worth it. I told him about the pregnancy test, about working myself sick, about being so scared and alone. We both cried. We both apologized for things that weren't really our faults. "I want to be in this baby's life," he said finally. "Not because I feel obligated, but because I want to." I want to know my child. And I want to know you again, if you'll let me. I don't need your money, I said quickly. I'm not trying to, I know. But that doesn't mean you should struggle when you don't have to. Let me help, please. We'll figure out the rest as we go. That was 3 months ago. I'm sitting in my nursery right now, 9 months pregnant, and probably going into labor any minute. Brandon and I took it slow. We're still taking it slow. We're not together, not yet. We're figuring out how to be friends, how to be co-parents, how to maybe build something real on a foundation that started with so much pain and confusion. He bought me a house, not a mansion, just a comfortable 3-bedroom, in a safe neighborhood with good schools. I finished my degree and got a job as a medical office coordinator at a clinic. It's honest work, and I'm good at it. Brandon comes over 3 times a week, and we paint the nursery together, talk about names, argue about parenting styles. It feels normal. It feels right. My daddy tried to reach out through his lawyer when he heard I was having Brandon's baby. Suddenly I was worth knowing again. I had my lawyer send back a 1-sentence response. No contact. I heard Lorraine's real estate company collapsed after Brandon pulled those contracts. Other companies followed his lead, not wanting to be associated with someone who'd assault a pregnant woman in public. My daddy divorced her when the money dried up. She remarried some man she met online and moved to another state. I feel nothing about it. No satisfaction, no anger, nothing. They're just people who hurt me once, and now they're gone. Brandon just texted me, asking what I want for dinner. He's bringing it over, along with the crib we ordered last week. We're having a girl. We're naming her Grace, because that's what I learned to give myself when nobody else would. That slap in the restaurant. It was the last time I let anyone make me feel small. See, Lorraine thought she had power because she had money and status. But real power? That's knowing your worth, even when nobody else sees it. Brandon didn't save me that day. I'd already survived on my own for 2 years. He just witnessed what I already knew, that I was strong enough to stand back up every single time life knocked me down. Some days are good, some days are complicated. Brandon and I are still figuring out if we're going to be more than co-parents. But we're building something real, something honest. We're building a family for Grace, even if it doesn't look like what other people expect. And me, I wake up every morning in a house I'm proud of, getting ready for a job I worked hard for, preparing for a daughter who's going to know she's loved from the moment she takes her first breath. That stepmother never tried to contact me again. My father sent a letter when I was 7 months pregnant. I burned it without opening it. Some people don't deserve second chances. Every time someone tries to judge me, to make me feel less than, I remember that restaurant. I remember standing up. I remember that the only person who gets to define my worth is me. And baby girl, I am worth everything. If this story touched you, if you've ever been counted out and came back stronger, drop a comment below, share your story. Because somebody out there needs to hear it. Hit that like button if you believe we're more than our worst moments. Subscribe, because I've got more stories about real people, real struggles, and real triumph. And remember, they can knock you down, but only you decide if you stay down. Now go be great.